'Cause like a winter tonight, I thought I would always have light. The quick flash that you gave to me, so dark I could barely see. Looking
from wherever you are around the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be exploring Today's Woman with Bree Olson. Bree Olson is an actress and movie star. Let's welcome her to the circle. Welcome, Bree. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Wonderful. So, Bree, before we get started on what Today's Woman is all about and who is she, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you come from?
Goodness, I was raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Well, in Woodburn, Indiana, outside of Fort Wayne. So a very, very small town. No stoplights,
Wow.
nothing really. A lot of cornfields.
Really?
So, yeah, that was an interesting upbringing. It's very different than what I'm living in today. You know, like right off Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood. It's a huge change.
Wow, Sunset Boulevard to Westburn. From Westburn. Wow, that is huge. So now you moved there from Texas, correct?
Yeah, Texas, but I can barely count as being a Texan at all. It was very short. Like I was literally just born and then shipped over to Indiana.
Indiana. And how long did you stay in Indiana?
Gosh, I lived there just until 3 years ago.
Oh, wow, long time.
Yeah.
What got you out here?
When I wanted to make the transition from adult acting into mainstream regular acting, I decided to make the plunge out here. It was very easy to stay living in Indiana while I was in the adult industry. I was a big fish in a really small pond, and so I didn't have to obviously audition or anything like that. But out here, I have to be on call all the time. If I get a call, you know, can you come in today? We're looking for blondes 25 to 35. I have to be on it. I have to be able to, you know, drive downtown LA and be there in 20 minutes. It's a lot different ball game. And yeah, so I'm just a really small fish in a huge ocean now.
I don't think you're a small fish anywhere. How is that? We're talking about that a little bit. How is that? Leaving the adult industry, coming into the mainstream industry. Has that been a big change besides, as you say, being a small fish in a big pond? I mean, is there anything else that's really changed?
That's definitely the biggest thing. There's a little bit of people that aren't accepting of it, but that's to be expected. I can't blame anyone for having their own personal beliefs or views on it. I do feel that it's a bit anti-feminist. I feel that if I were a male porn star, that people would view me a lot differently. But that's just something that comes along with being a woman. So,
Well, it looks like we're jumping right into that topic right now, aren't we? All right. So, what's it like being a woman from Woodburn compared to a woman in Hollywood?
oh gosh, in Woodburn, you are expected to go to school, but not necessarily to get a degree for a job. It's more like going to school to get your Mrs. degree, and you get your husband, Mrs. degree.
What does that mean?
You get your husband. You get your husband there. So you go to college with good intentions, but then you drop out while your husband finishes college, and you have his babies. And
This is recently.
What?
I mean, that attitude is recent.
I don't know. That's just what it's like where I'm from. You know,
Wow.
like girls, that's the main objective, which is for a lot of places, you know, not just Woodburn in the Midwest and the South. I mean, everywhere besides the borders, I feel like, you know, California is pretty liberal. New York is pretty liberal and far out with their views. You see people that get married at a much older age. They have a lot less children. They don't have children until they're much older. They don't put as much value on marriage. And everyone, I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. I'm just saying it's a completely different ballgame. A lot of my friends, luckily we have Facebook, so I can see what everyone's doing still, and they're on their second marriage and third kid. I've never been married and have no kids. You know, it's just a completely different world.
It really is. The reason I asked if it was still going on today, because it sounds like that's 50 years ago kind of mentality.
It's funny that you say that because when people ask me what it's like, if I just want to give them a very short answer, I just say, imagine the 50s. That's what it's like where I'm from.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like Back to the Future. That's kind of strange. What other things were different for you back there in Woodburn that you see here now? I mean, that's one big difference for sure, the educational factor. The treatment, any different?
The treatment in how people treat me, like if I were to go back there now, how would people treat me?
Well, let's explore that. Yeah, but I was thinking more like how people treated women. We know educational wise, but it almost sounded like it was more of a male dominated environment back there.
It definitely, I feel like it's like that everywhere still, but I mean, yeah, women definitely are being able to gain higher positions in the cities, but it's definitely more so the higher you go up, the less women you see in most workplaces. But back there, it's definitely a lot more so, not only more so, but it's a lot more accepted, and women are still perfectly okay with that, which I'm okay with it too. I just would like to see that if both partners are working outside of the home, I would like to see when they come home, instead of the woman doing all of the housework, I would like to see the guy pitching in as well. But women still feel that they have to remain completely domesticated, even if they have the same income and the same responsibilities outside the home that the male does. And that's something that really frustrates me about women that I see back in the Midwest.
That's interesting. Like you mentioned earlier, Bree mentioned it as well earlier, that we're not really knocking Woodburn here or any other place in the Midwest or the South. We're just showing the differences in viewpoints. So here's another take. Okay, so let's see that. How would they treat you differently now that you've come from, you're in Hollywood? Would they look at you differently in Woodburn? One of the things that pops up in my head is one of my wife's favorite movies. I think it's Sweet Home Alabama with Reese Witherspoon.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it? Okay. She was from a little town, moves up to New York, comes back. Who are you? You're the city girl. How is that? Does it work like that for you as well, or?
People are very accepting. That's one thing that I definitely miss about back home. People are so sweet. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They are the most generous, just honest, giving people. But something that I've noticed, and the reason that I'm not that close with people back home anymore, is because we have extremely different viewpoints, issues, everyday life problems. You know, like I go home and I'm talking about, man, I only got 4 auditions this week. And they're like, I can barely afford the diapers. You know, it's just 2 completely different worlds. So
that is different.
It's very different.
Wow. Now, do you have any siblings at all?
I do. I have a little sister. She is a complete little nerd ball. I love her to death. She's in her first year of college, and I'm so proud to say she's nothing like me.
And she's over there still in Indiana?
Yeah.
All right. That's fascinating. So let's go to that question. The challenges of being a woman. And you can pick whatever state you want, whatever profession you want. What are some of the challenges that Bree's encountered? And do you think things are getting better with those challenges? But first, what are some of the challenges you've encountered?
Gosh, I encounter challenges every day. I mean, even when it comes to, and there's a really famous feminist, and you know, she always has to clarify, I do not hate men. I don't hate men in any way. We love men. And it's sad that we even have to clarify that, you know, that yes, we love men. That's not what being a feminist is. It's just about wanting the same equal rights as men. But one of the things that she pointed out, and I am so familiar with this because obviously I've made a really good living, and I date pretty normal guys for the most part, or guys that make less money than me. And when we go out to eat or what have you, I pay a lot of the time. And I've encountered it as well. And she told the story how she had got out her money one time to pay the parking guys, and the guy took the money from her. He plainly saw that she put it out of her own wallet, out of her own purse, and he looked over at the guy she was with and said, "Thank you, sir." and they just assume that it's the woman. And that has happened to me so many times in restaurants and, the car park, everywhere. And then when I'm with guys.
Really?
And waiters, she said waiters not acknowledging her because they assume that the man's going to pay. I've had that happen so many times, and it brings me such joy when they put the check on the table and I'm like, oh, that's mine, thank you, because they put it in front of the man, and then you see them panic because they're like, oh no, I was kissing the wrong ass the whole time throughout this whole dinner. I don't know what my tip is going to look like. So. Yeah, it's very interesting. But I would say just the everyday encounters like that. One other thing that I wanted to point out that is the most upsetting and frustrating to me is that women put me down so much. And they look at me as an anti-feminist, that I'm not for women. And I would like to point out that being a feminist is about being able to embrace your sexuality just as much as a male can. Like, we look down at women for losing their virginity, but we expect men to have lost their virginity. I don't see how that's going to work. Because you need both to be able to lose their virginity, right? So I feel like I'm just being sexually empowered and exploring my sexuality and not having the fear of the old times put on me saying, keep your legs crossed, stay covered up, be a lady. I'm not going to stick to those standards of like what you said back in the 50s. I'm going to be however I want and express myself sexually because I can. And I'm not doing anything illegal and I'm not hurting anyone, and I love sex and I love my body and I love to explore it and I don't want to hide it. And I think that women should be thankful for me because I'm paving the way so that they can dress more how they want to without having to worry about people calling them a slut or a whore. I'm really sick of girls calling each other all these names and putting each other down because all it's doing is hurting us and making it okay for men to do it to us as well.
That's it's a great explanation. I like that. It was really insightful, that's for sure. We learned a lot.
Thank you.
A couple things. You made about 1 million guys happy when you said you pick up the check, that's for sure. I know that one.
Hi, welcome to Adelante. This is Adelante Recovery, and my name is Yvette Kuglin, and I'm part of the staff.
Adelante Recovery Center has helped people in dual diagnosis for 5 years. We accept most PPO insurances and provide luxury accommodations and 24-hour support. To speak with an admissions counselor, call 1-888-242-4450.
A lot of time we don't even know what's wrong with us, and sometimes we need to get away to figure that out. So if you want to go for a little retreat out in Corona Del Mar, which is a confidential location, we're here to help. So we're only a phone call away. Thank you.
You mentioned being a lady.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think of yourself as still a lady?
I definitely think that I'm a lady.
And you can still be a lady even though you pay the bills and even though you do this and that.
Absolutely. Feminism, it doesn't just go to the rights of women. It goes to the rights of both people being equal. So when I say I'll pick up the check, it's because I make more money than most of my boyfriends. Whoever makes the most money should pay for the meal. I make the most money, I should pay for his meal then. If he makes more money than me, okay, fine, he can pay for the meal, or maybe we can split it. But I'm not going to be about those old time gender roles and saying the men need to be strong all the time. They are not allowed to cry. They are expected to pay for everything, to take care of everything. I want him to be whoever he would be naturally before all of these things of society were pressured and put on him. And I want to be able to be a strong, independent woman that embraces my sexuality and doesn't mind caring for my male partner. And I think that if everyone were allowed to have the freedom to do that, we would all get along a lot seemingly better.
Well said, Bree. Well said. How about some of the chivalrous acts? Are those part of Bree's criteria for men? Opening doors or anything like that?
I don't mind. I think that's completely innocent. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you opened that door for me. Don't you think I'm strong enough? I mean, it's fine. I think it's cute, and it's more of an act of endearment to me. Like, oh, that was cute. Thank you. Like, there's certain things that it's like, it's cute. It's not mandatory by any means, but it's still, I'm a girl, of course. Like, I still have a lot of what society has put in me, no matter how hard I try to shake it all off. There's still certain things that are going to make me be like, oh, that's really cute.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you this question. This is obviously very different here in Hollywood than it is in Woodburn. Where do you see this philosophy that you not only you hold, but a lot of other women hold as well now? Is it harder here? Is it harder in Woodburn? I'm assuming Woodburn.
It's definitely harder in Woodburn, for sure. Okay. I had no intention of not being married. I'm 28 now. I'm not being married and having children by the time I was 29. And being out here, I say to myself, thank God, like, I'm so free, you know? I feel like when I look at my friends on Facebook now, I'm not going to name it, well, if you guys wouldn't even know anyways, but I'm not going to call anyone out, but I have had so many women on Facebook, my friends, text me and say, oh my gosh, I wish I could just, you know, like, be free again. And they're like, don't get me wrong, I love my kids, but, you know, screw my husband. I wish I could go be free in California. Or they say, I wish I would have waited longer. They're like, I wish I would have done what you're doing. And so some don't, you know, some are perfectly happy the way they are. But I've had a lot of women say they feel trapped in what they got themselves into because they felt pressured to do it, to get married. And so they settle for the guy that they're not necessarily in love with, or the right guy, because they feel so much pressure from society. Because once a woman becomes a certain age, she's not respected, quote unquote, if she's not married. People start saying, well, what's wrong with her if she's not married yet? If a man isn't married yet, it's just that he hasn't found the right one. If a woman isn't married, there must be something wrong. And
you still feel that today?
Today in Indiana, here, I definitely don't. It's I don't know many women married here at all. I know one, I think.
Yeah, because at 28, you still be relatively young out here, it seems like.
Yeah, it's definitely zero pressure out here to be married. And now when I look at if I were to live back in Indiana, I would feel the pressure a lot. I would definitely feel out of place. And there's not many suitors either because the men are married off as well. So there wouldn't be much of a dating scene going on. But yeah, here it's great. I feel really free. I'm not at all against marriage. Marriage can be a very good thing. And children as well. And it's just that I'm definitely in no rush, and I'm not going to be pressured by society to do it by a certain time.
I like that. So that was really insightful. We learned a lot about you in regards to challenges of being a woman. Tell me a little bit about today's woman. We have about 5 or 6 minutes left. I still got about 3 questions to ask you. What's today's woman? You seem to be describing it right now. You kind of give us good information about it. You clarified your view of feminism. We're not anti-men. We love men, but at the same time, we want equal rights. Is that what you would see as today's woman, or what you would think is the ideal of today's woman?
Definitely. And yeah, like I said, feminism isn't even about just women. It's about men as well, and just creating equality for both and making things better for men, making it easier so that they don't feel like they have to live up to certain standards either. And that we both can be free without, you know, being so gender biased. I mean, back in, you know, when we had to catch our own food, it all depended on physical strength. And of course, it's unquestionable that most men are physically stronger than women, and so they were usually in charge. But now we live in a society where it's based off of intelligence, off of creativity, and it's been proven again and again that women are just as intelligent, just as creative as men are, and that they're capable of doing the exact same jobs as men are and having the exact same careers. So we really need to take away, you know, back our caveman days mentality of okay, well, the man is strong, man must do everything, and take that away and say, okay, well, we don't live in that type of society anymore. Now let's go off of the strengths that we work off of today. And now that we've shown how, and obviously there are things that are still different, but for the most part, I say we can take down a lot of those biases and barriers and work more together as a couple. And I honestly think that it clashes a lot of couples. I think that women may hold men to a certain standard and men hold women to a certain standard. And if we can just take down that curtain and just see each other for who we really are, equal and partners, I think that a lot of partnerships could prosper from that.
That's a great. Well, you are telling you are something, Bree. We have the last couple minutes. Advice for younger women, but before we get to younger women, can you give me briefly some advice for the men out there?
In regards to?
How they should treat women.
Men, how they should treat women. Oh, gosh.
How would you want to be treated?
How would I want to be treated? Like anyone else?
All right.
No.
So what's your advice for women then, for the young women coming up right now, and they're 16, 18 years old, trying to figure out life in their head? Not that I'm not still trying to figure out life, but what advice would you give it to them?
I would like to give women a piece of, there's so much advice to give, but I would like to give women a piece of advice about if they were to get into the sex industry, because this is a question that I get frequently asked, specified just towards me from young women. When a young woman says to me, Bree, I look up to you, you make me want to get into porn, I cringe. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Because when I was an 18-year-old girl, like most girls, I didn't think about my future, and I didn't think about what the repercussions would be of what I did at the time. And something that I like to say is, I don't regret doing porn. I regret not having thought what people would think of me from having done porn. And even though I've been out for 3 years now, I still have that stigma attached to me, and I will for the rest of my life. And so I would like to tell young girls, even if you're not going to be in porn, if you do webcam shows, if you want to go, become a stripper or dancer, what have you, or even if you're just really promiscuous in college, or if you take pictures. Another big thing is taking pictures, sending it to your boyfriends that you think you're in love with, and next thing you know, they're being posted online. There's not a law against that right now. If you're not underage, those pictures are allowed to be up there forever, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And I would say, be very careful of the things that you do when you're young, because it will follow you for the rest of your life. And you may think that, oh, I'm just young and having fun right now. I'm 21. Who cares? This is going to go away by the time I get married. No, it won't. What you do, it's all going to lead up. And your husband's going to have to live with it. Your family's going to have to live with it. And your children will have to live with it. And that's the advice that I would give young women.
That's fabulous advice. Fabulous advice. We got a couple questions left here really quickly. Did Charlie Sheen shape any of your beliefs today?
No,
A girl from Woodburn to Hollywood? No?
He helped show me how accessible Hollywood really was. Obviously, when you're living in that perspective light with a celebrity like that, you get to see, wow, this is how life could be. Coming from Woodburn, you think that's a fantasy land, that it could never happen for a real person. But I got to see that it is obtainable, even though Charlie was born into it, but he definitely has his own talent as well. If you look at his siblings, he's the most successful of them. He's a very talented man. But regardless, it's obtainable. And he's one of the biggest successes of them all. Look, he lost 2.5 men, and then he went right on and started another show that was very successful. And, so he's very inspirational, to say the least.
He's an amazing character. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
What are you up to now? People are going to be asking, I know. What's Bree going to do now?
So I'm working on a web series called Bree DOES Comedy, and it's about a porn star transitioning into the comedy scene. And it's actually really funny. When I read the scripts, a lot of them do pertain to real life experiences I've had, but we obviously put a very strong comedic spin on it. So that's interesting. People can check that out. and that's attached to my YouTube channel as well, and that's just official Bree Olson. And gosh, I have so much stuff I'm always doing, and people can check out my Twitter, which is at Bree Olson. My Instagram is at Bree Olson, and my Facebook is official Bree Olson. So yeah, everyone can check me out on all my social, and all my links are there. And I post every day. I love my social media family. I've been with them for 10 years. They're like my best friend.
Last question of the interview. We call it the fastball question. It's sometimes a trick question, sometimes it's not. Are you ready, Bree?
Okay.
All right, fastball question. Do you want to be married anytime soon?
No.
All righty, that was it for that. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Bree, for being on The Circle. It was a fabulous show. You're a fabulous guest. We learned a lot. I hope a lot of the girls out there learned as well. Thanks again, Bree.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, our motto is simple. Wherever there's psychology involved, whether it's Woodburn or Hollywood, we're going to be there. See you next time, everyone.